You know that feeling when you finally get the raise you've been working toward for 2 years. Like you did it. You made it. You're finally earning real money. Maybe you hit $70,000, maybe $80,000, maybe even pushing 6 figures. And for about 3 weeks, everything feels different. You feel lighter. You stop doing that mental math at the grocery store. You stop checking your bank account with one eye closed. And then something weird happens. 3 months later, you're sitting in the exact same spot you were before the raise. Same low-grade financial anxiety. Same feeling that money just disappears. Same quiet panic when an unexpected bill shows up. Except now you're earning significantly more than you used to. So what the hell is going on? My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, financial psychology, and why some people can earn twice as much as their neighbors and somehow end up with less. If you've ever wondered why a bigger paycheck didn't actually fix your financial situation, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it ends up changing the way you see your own income. Now, before we get into the actual mechanics of what's happening here, let me ask you something. When you imagine a broke person, what do you picture? Probably someone struggling on minimum wage, right? Someone who genuinely doesn't earn enough to cover their basic expenses. Someone for whom every dollar is a survival decision. Here's what most people don't picture. A 34-year-old marketing manager pulling in $78,000 a year, driving a leased BMW, living in a nice apartment, eating out 4 times a week, and carrying $14,000 in credit card debt with basically nothing saved for retirement. But that second person? That's the actual face of broke in America today. And here's the part that will probably surprise you. That person isn't broke because they don't earn enough. They're broke because of something that happens specifically to middle-class earners that almost nobody talks about. Something that gets more dangerous the more money you make. I call it the middle-class money trap. And once you understand how it works, you'll never look at your paycheck the same way again. Here's the core idea. There's a psychological phenomenon that follows income increases like a shadow. Every time your earnings go up, your perceived identity of what you deserve goes up with it. Not by the same amount, by more. Always by more. When you were making $40,000, you told yourself, once I make $60,000, I'll start saving seriously. When you hit $60,000, the target moved. Once I make $80,000, then I'll have real breathing room. Now you're at $80,000 and somehow the finish line is still just out of reach. That's not a coincidence. That's not a discipline problem. That's a trap. And it's been engineered specifically for people like you. Economists call this lifestyle inflation. But that term makes it sound like a minor inconvenience, like your expenses just kind of drifted upward a little. What's actually happening is far more systematic and far more destructive than that. Think about what actually changes when someone goes from $45,000 to $80,000, $000 in income over a few years. The obvious things change. Maybe they move into a nicer apartment. Maybe they upgrade their car. Maybe they start eating at better restaurants. All of that makes sense on the surface. You earned more, you can afford more. But here's where it gets really interesting. The spending doesn't scale linearly with the income. It scales with the identity. The moment you start earning $80,000, your brain quietly recategorizes you. You're not a budget person anymore. You're a person who earns real money. And people who earn real money don't shop at discount stores. They don't drive used cars from 2015. They don't stress about a $90 dinner bill. Except here's the brutal math nobody shows you. That $80,000 salary, after federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, and Medicare, you're probably taking home somewhere around $58,000 to $62,000, depending on where you live. That's roughly $5,000 a month in actual spendable income. Now let's look at what the upgraded lifestyle actually costs. Nicer apartment in a decent area, easily $1,800 to $2,200 a month. Leased car or car payment on something respectable, $550 to $700. Car insurance on that nicer vehicle, $180 to $220. Dining out 4 or 5 times a week because you work hard and you deserve it, $600 to $800. Streaming subscriptions, gym membership, random monthly apps you forgot you signed up for, $150 to $200. Groceries, utilities, phone bill, $500 to $600. Add that up, you're sitting somewhere between $3,780 and $4,720 per month just on the baseline upgraded lifestyle. And we haven't even touched clothing, weekend activities, travel, random Amazon purchases, or the truly invisible expenses that bleed your account without ever feeling significant in the moment. Suddenly, that $5,000 take-home doesn't look so impressive. Suddenly you understand why the person earning $80,000 feels exactly as financially squeezed as the person earning $40,000. Because in terms of what's actually left over at the end of the month, the gap between them is almost nothing. But here's where it gets really painful. And this is the part most people completely miss. The person earning $40,000 who's living paycheck to paycheck, they're in a tough situation, but they have a clear path forward. Earn more, save the difference. The math is simple, even if execution is hard. The person earning $80,000 who's living paycheck to paycheck, they've already used their most powerful financial tool, income growth, and they spent every single dollar of it. They didn't save the difference, they consumed the difference. And now they're stuck because they've built a lifestyle that requires every dollar they earn just to maintain. That's the trap. That's the actual trap. You upgraded your life to match your income, and now you can't downgrade without it feeling like failure. Think about the psychology of that for a second. If you're earning $40,000 and struggling, telling yourself to cut expenses feels like survival. It makes sense. Of course you'd cut expenses if you're barely getting by. But if you're earning $80,000 and struggling, cutting expenses feels like going backwards. It feels like admitting you're not actually successful, like the lifestyle was a lie. So instead of cutting back, most people do the exact opposite. They tell themselves they just need to earn a little more. If I could just get to $95,000, then I'd have breathing room. Then I'd start saving. And the cycle continues. Income goes up. Lifestyle follows. Nothing is left over. Repeat until retirement suddenly seems terrifying. Now let's talk about something that makes this trap even more dangerous. Because it's not just about spending more on nicer stuff. There's a specific set of expenses that middle-class earners take on that lower-income earners can't even access. And these expenses are incredibly hard to walk back once you've committed to them. The first one is housing. When you earn $40,000, your housing options are limited. You rent something modest or you have roommates. But when you're earning $80,000, suddenly you can qualify for a mortgage. You can rent a significantly nicer place. And both of those feel like obvious upgrades. Smart, even. Except housing is the most expensive lifestyle inflation commitment you can make. Because it's not just the monthly payment, it's the furniture to fill the bigger space. It's the neighborhood restaurants you start going to because they're convenient. It's the property taxes and maintenance if you bought. It's the subtle but relentless pressure to live up to your address. The second one is the car. This one is almost universal among middle-class earners. When you're making $40,000, you drive whatever gets you there. When you're making $80,000, you start thinking about what your car says about you. And car dealerships know this. They've built entire financing products specifically designed to make monthly payments feel affordable even when the total cost is quietly destroying your wealth. Here's a number that should make you stop and think. The average new car payment in America right now is $735 per month. $735. That's $8,820 per year. Over a typical 5-year loan, you're talking about $44,000 in payments, often on a vehicle that will be worth $18,000 by the time you pay it off. And the moment you pay it off, the cycle starts again, because now the car is 6 years old and you feel like you deserve something newer. Meanwhile, the person who bought a reliable $14.00 used car and invested that $735 difference every month? In 10 years at an 8% return, that's over $134,000 sitting in their investment account.